Welcome to the Your Limitless Leadership Podcast with Jenny and Brent Widman. Here, we believe leadership isn't just about titles. It's about how you show up in every aspect of life. Whether you're leading a business, building a legacy as an entrepreneur, guiding your family, or striving to lead yourself first, this podcast is for you. Join us as we dive into real conversations about growth, decision-making, and the courage it takes to lead with purpose. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and equipped to become the limitless leader you are meant to be. This is Your Limitless Leadership Podcast. Let's lead without limits. Welcome to Your Limitless Leadership Podcast, and I'm excited about this one today, man, because I have James Reuter, who is, from what my wife tells me, I don't know him as well, but he is one of a kind, and he is just a super fantastic person. I don't know how else to describe that. Like, when she describes you, you can see the smile on her face. And that says a lot about who you are as a person. I'm excited to dig in on this one. Just a little background. You have been, sounds like you've been married for 10 years to your wife, yes. Elizabeth. That's a big deal in itself. And two boys, James, 7, and Antonio, 4 at the same time. So you got a busy little household, is what you're saying.
Very busy.
And boys on top of it. So
yes.
I'm guessing they're all boys. Knowing you.
They're boys. Real boys.
You've been at New York Life. You're a senior partner there. I want to hear that path too, how you get to that, because you did that pretty quickly from what I've seen.
Yeah.
If I'm right on that.
Things moved along pretty quickly here.
Okay. And then you are a retired detective too. So just to hear that side of it and how you go from here to here, but just how that's benefited you and what you've learned over time too. But I would just love to hear how, just kind of your story, the state of the James, if you will, how you got to where you are, from where you were to where you are now, and just tell us about you.
Sure.
Start there.
Yeah, you started with my wife, so I'll start there. I think that's the appropriate place to start. So actually, me and my wife went to grammar school together in Brooklyn when we were kids. We went to first, second, and third grade together.
Really?
And, actually reconnected in our mid-20s. And we're married. We moved in together, I think, 6 months after we started dating, engaged about a year after that, and have been together, married for 10 years now.
Wow.
And we had our first son, James. My wife was actually pregnant with our first when I transitioned out of the police department.
Okay.
So there was a lot of life going on at that point in time. But I actually dropped out of college after my junior year and joined the police department. And I joined the NYPD, and I spent 11 years with the New York City Police Department. I actually went back to school during the time I was in the police department to finish up my degree. At my wife's recommendation, she's like, "You started this thing. Why don't you finish it?" And I give her a lot of credit for that. Keeps me accountable, and make sure I'm not leaving anything on the table, right? If that makes sense. Yeah. But I ended up being injured in the police department and had 5 surgeries on my leg, and essentially forcing me to retire, right? And that was kind of a shock. I think that, when me and my wife started dating, I was doing plainclothes work in Queens, in the police department, and enjoying what I did. And I met really just phenomenal people. Some of the best friends I have made from the police department. It takes a unique type of individual, I think, to do that kind of work. And, getting injured, recovering, having other surgery, that multiple times over led to my departure. And when that happened in 2018, my wife's pregnant, just lost my job. We bought a house, bills, life. There was a lot coming at me at that point in time. But I told my wife, and I've spoken about this before, my son being born that August. So I retired in May, was using a cane at the time, was out of shape. My leg was pretty banged up, and having my son in August really changed everything. It gave me that reality check, like, I don't want to screw this up for you. I really don't. And that's what snapped me back on track, and really actively started looking for what the second act was going to be for me professionally, right? I knew, I had my wife and my son at that time. Well, what am I going to do? I'm 32 years old and retired. from the police department.
Oh,
And, that's what happened after 11 years. And I was actually working for an attorney at the time. Boy, I made the connection, took my LSAT, was going to go to law school, and just made the decision that I wanted to just dive right into some work. I didn't want to wait 3 or 4 years before I even started a new job. And it didn't seem like a viable option at the time. And I don't know if my heart was really in it, which was like a thing for me. I didn't know if that's really what I wanted to do. So I ended up getting some really good advice, and I was asking everybody for advice, right? I needed some direction. And a very good family friend to my in-laws gave me some advice and said, can you talk to people? You afraid of speaking to people? No, after 11 years in the police department, not afraid to speak to anybody. And he said, you should get into financial services. It's one of the careers you should look at. He recommended insurance companies. So he thought it was a little bit easier to get registered, get licensed, and actually build a business that somewhat belongs to you. And that's exactly what I did. I started interviewing at firms and interviewed at 4 or 5 different companies, and really found like this was the right spot for me, and that was April of 19. So I was retired for about 11 months before I found New York Life and hit the ground running. COVID happened shortly after that, a little less than a year. So everything shut down. So I was working from my house, building a business, which I wasn't the only one to do that during the time. A lot of people were put in that position. But I hit my benchmarks 2 years in a row from home, the benchmarks I needed to hit in order to get promoted. And happily, January of 2022, I joined the management team here at New York Life. And I loved being an advisor. I did, right? I would not be upset today if I had to do more of that job or go back and do that job. But I think being a partner at the firm, I really found my stride. I loved coaching. It's exciting, meeting new people constantly, people that want to be in this business, people that want to do business with people here. And 2022, I ran the #1 new team in the country for a new partner and was the Northeast Zone Rookie Partner of the Year. So, I got a little, emboldened almost by the first year success that, I wanted to just, demolish year 2, right? Like year 1's in the books. What's next? And 2023, I made top 50. I was a top 50 partner at the company. I think we finished number 16 in the country as a second year partner unit with about 400 partners nationally, some who have been tenured for years. And that was my mark. Like I'm on the radar, right? And it really set a great foundation to qualifying for senior partner promotion here at the firm. Now, it's not anything they have to like me to promote. Like they don't have to like me to promote. Yeah. I'd like to think they do, but it's not a prerequisite. And we just built an incredible team and an incredible office. And in 2 years, I was promoted to senior partner at the firm. And then as of the close of 25, I hit all the metrics for executive partner promotion, which should be announced next month. And there's only 20 executive partners out of over 600 partners at New York Life that are your partner title. Yeah. And that brings me to today. So much has happened personally, professionally over the last 8 years, right? Had you told me 8 years ago when I was catching cases in the squad in the East Village, that I'd be a senior executive partner at a Fortune 100 financial services firm, I would have said you were crazy.
About it.
But I think a lot of the skills that I learned in the police department actually assisted me in the transition here, right? I think a lot of this business, when you're asking people questions and fact finding and trying to find out what someone wants and someone needs, when you ask questions professionally in my previous line of work, it tends to lend itself here. I also think people appreciated maybe the bluntness in which I deliver messages and get the point across. I believe in integrity first business here. The clients first, advisors and the company are a close second. But what I think makes our team unique is the level of accountability we have with our advisors and our partners. And I have 6 managers that report into me, over 50 advisors that work on our team here. And that number is going to more than double this year. Right? We're going to be planning on expanding approximately about 70 more advisors to the team this year. I think we'll beat that number, but that's the number I've set forth. Maybe 2 or 3 more partner promotions on the year. But it's surreal, right? So I try to like remember where I came from a lot, like the work that I had to do to get here. But it is something special. I have to pinpoint that, right? That it's unique.
That's okay. Because there's a lot. I mean, obviously, right, to talk about. But I think the one thing that caught me is you went from, well, not the one thing, but you go from partner to senior partner to now executive partner, top 50 or top 15, if you will. And do me a favor. I'm going to ask this question, but I got to have you take the humbleness out of the equation, because you can tell like what you've done, and maybe you see it, maybe you don't. Like, that's not normal, man. What you have done is not normal.
That's what I'm talking here.
Yeah. What sets you apart, or what do you do or feel like you do differently, better than other people? Like, what is it?
So when I got into this business, I lacked things, skill, knowledge, right? I didn't have those. And I say this a lot, that in the beginning, you just weren't going to outwork me. Okay. So what I lacked in skill and knowledge, I'm going to make up for with grit, right? And that's not something you could negotiate, right? We're not here to coach effort. We're not here to coach will. Like a coach on skill, coach on knowledge, right? Hone those abilities. I can't coach effort, right? So I brought that to the table, where what I think, and I'm not the only one that does that. A lot of people show up with the effort, the skill, like the grit, and they work on the skill and the knowledge. But I think where people make a lot of mistakes is when people get good at something. Okay. I think the most common response is to peel back, because you say, I could get the same result with less effort, so I'm going to stay right there. I looked at it and said, I got good at this. Now I'm going to double down and delegate. Right. So I hired my first assistant when nobody had an assistant I was the only new partner in the country, second year partner with an assistant, because I knew that if I wanted to scale the way I wanted to, it wasn't going to be by me just working a sheer amount of hours at that point in time. I was already working, let's say 50 hours a week, which I don't think is crazy, 50, 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
But to double my efforts, I can't work 120 hours a week.
No.
And still be present with my family and be home and do those things. So where a lot of people peel back to generate the same result, right, with less effort, I doubled down, right? And I said, I got good at this. This is what I'm not good at. Let me delegate some of that and ask for help and do things that I neither had the time or the ability to do with the scale of the operation we had. And I just doubled down. And then when I got good at something else and we expanded more, I went from my assistant being part-time to full-time, expanded my management team, led my advisors to their promotions, which they qualified on their own merits, right? And I built a really strong second line management team here, people I can rely on, trust, and instilling in them the same work ethic, right? Same accountability measures that I took on myself, and they pay it forward. I think culture is also something here that I spent a ton of time developing and weeding out people before they even show up here. The grit and the culture, that's the thing, right? That's what organizations cease to exist without, right? The effort and the culture attached to it. Wow. So the team dinners, the one-off lunches, the gotta seconds, all those other things that culturally build an organization is what I think we do really well. We've been having the same team dinner, our annual team dinner, last 4 years at the same restaurant. Love the restaurant. Can I give her a shout? So Salvina La Cucina Nouveau in Manalapan, she's taking care of us year over year. My first team dinner, we took up 3 tables in the corner of the restaurant, right? And it was just us, and I was just happy to be there, right? I was soaking it all in. It's my first team dinner. The next year took up, about half the restaurant.
Okay.
And third and fourth years, we booked the entire place out, right?
Wow.
Last year, I invited 115 people to my team dinner. Because I bring spouses, significant others, we're all eating together. And that's the difference, right? It getting the buy-in from your significant other. Had my wife not bought in, right, to the opportunity and me really doing this, I don't think it happens the same way. I really don't, right? Because if you're, one of my mentors always said, like, you need the right spouse or no spouse for this type of industry, for this type of business, right? Incentivized, in the beginning, unstable pay, right? You're not sure, you're hustling, you're meeting clients, you're building a business. So that's a unique thing. But that grit and that culture is something that I think was very different from day one.
If you're listening to this and you're thinking, that's me, you're not alone. Let's call it what it is. You've got the drive, you've got the experience, like you have it. You have it. You know what you're doing. But something still feels off at times, or things could be better. We know that. They can be. There's more. What we do is we help committed leaders go from guessing and grinding to really leading with clarity and structure and confidence. We're offering complimentary DNA strategy calls. We're going to evaluate how you're leading, where performance might be breaking down. It happens. And what really needs to tighten up within your business, within your leadership, within those people around you. Then we're going to take this next step. And what we're going to do is build accountability, the skills and the systems to create that consistent or those consistent results around it. If you're open to digging in a little bit, the link is below in the show notes. Just book your DNAcall.com and we will find time for you and we will dig in with you. All right, let's get back to it. That's kind of why I asked the question, because you said you went from number one team to then next year, you're like, I'm going to do it again, or I'm going to get better. And most people rest on that.
Well, I think that they rest on what everybody wants to show their resume, right?
Yep.
This is what I did. I'm like, that's great. History lesson. Where are we going? What's going on right now, right? And I don't mean to diminish what the accomplishments were previously, but anybody here can have a great year. Like you can accidentally have a great year. Do it again. And then that year's, do it again. Do that again. Oh, then let's increase it and let's do it again. And let's blow last year's numbers out of the water. Doubling down, I don't think when you own, run, operate a business or any entrepreneurial opportunity that you can put your feet up. Like we're not there, right? I have a saying on the team. I'm like, you got 5 minutes either way. Meaning if something good happens, you get 5 minutes to celebrate and then pretend like it never happened. If something bad happens, you get 5 minutes to complain about it and then act like it never happened.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can't write off yesterday's wait, right? It's just not, it just doesn't work that way. So I got a lot of one-liners, one
I love it.
Key off things that drive that home. But man, the grit, the culture, I think there's camaraderie here. And my wife said, when the guys and girls I worked with threw me a retirement party when I left the police department. And a couple of my friends said some things, and there's a video of this whole thing, right? And my wife's very pregnant, right? They had my retirement party, I think, in July, and my son was born in August. And I think me retiring was more of an emotional experience for my wife than it was me, because she knew so much of my identity was wrapped up
I bet.
in that job, in that career. And she said to me, I don't know if you're going to find this again, because it's identity, it's camaraderie, the culture, the team, everything that existed there. And then after being here as an advisor and building my team in the office and my partners and the culture and with everyone, my wife was like, you built it. She's like, most people don't get it once. She's like, you had it once and then you built it for a second time.
Yes. Yep.
So I love what I do and the people I do it with and the people I do it for. I'm very lucky, very fortunate to have experienced that twice professionally in my life.
So bring me back to that a little bit. Because you talked about how tough it was to be basically told you got to retire, what have you.
Sure. Yeah.
What would because you had that 11-month gap, what was from where you are now to where you were before, there's this gap in there. What was your mindset more of the, what the heck do I do now? Was it more of a, I'll figure this out and I'm going to, where were you at when that happened?
So I don't know if this makes me a bad husband or not, but I didn't ask my wife how she felt about all that until years later, because I think I was still dealing with a lot.
I bet.
Unpacking that. So for me, it was, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And that was honestly probably my lowest point in life. The only jobs I could find were security jobs or private investigator jobs. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just didn't want that again. It reminded me too much of the police department and everything there. Worked with great people. Like there's a saying on the job, like you miss the clowns, not the circus. Like miss the people I was working with dearly. But when I left, I truly did not know what I was going to do. And it was the first time in my life I didn't have a job since I was 15 years old. And I felt like a bum. I'll be very honest with you. I'm home nursing an injury, unemployed, while my pregnant wife was going to work. There's nothing to say that would make me even now comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And years later, I asked my wife, how'd you feel? She's like, scared.
I bet.
Right? Because like, all right, she married a police officer, became a detective. We'll do this for the next 20 years or so. He'll retire. We'll get a pension. We'll move somewhere. Right? That's the story.
Yep.
And then this wrench got thrown into it, right? Where now I'm injured, right? And I think any test to a marriage could be injury, illness, right? Financial strains. We saw all of it. And, my son being born snapped me out of it. Like I said, it was just like a gut check where like, I don't want him to grow up. Like, I don't want to think his dad's a loser. That's literally what was going through my mind. Like, oh, my dad got hurt 100 years ago and he just hangs around the house now. That's what was going through my head. And the more people I spoke to, the more bad advice I got. And then a couple of good people like really pointed me in the right direction, a family friend being one of them. And the support from my wife basically saying, what do you like, try it. Like, what do you have? Like, what do you have to lose? She's like, you can talk to people. She's like, you're smart, had a really great education, high school, college, and just took a different path and went to law enforcement. Not that there aren't smart and educated people in law enforcement. It's just not something typical. And I found that, but it went from the lowest point in my life to the most exciting with over months, right? Because it went to the lowest and then I felt like I had some direction. And once I had direction, that helped a lot, right? And then I got hit with like the imposter syndrome, right? Like, is this really what I do I became a financial advisor, and that's a lot of feedback you get from people you knew from your other life, right? Which created a whole new set of problems for me.
I bet.
Right. Hey, Brent, I want to tell you about what I'm doing in New York Life and helping individuals and business owners save, accumulate, distribute wealth, tax strategies. James, you were in the office with me 3 months ago catching cases. What could you possibly know about that? And I didn't do a lot of business with people I knew. I wish I had. People always like very, they try to avoid approaching people they know or they have some type of relationship with. I think if it's done the right way, there's no issue with it. I wish I had more of that. I had a couple people I work with, no family business, no anything, and started building, networking, building relationships. And, the imposter syndrome led me to, is this really for me? Should I still be doing this after a year and then COVID and then 2 years? And my wife was actually the one that pushed me into a leadership role here. I'm like, I don't know. Like I became eligible. Should I take advantage of it? Should I not? And again, was like, I think you'd be great at it. Right? And I joke with my wife that like all this happened because of her, and I had no involvement whatsoever as a running joke. But no, I mean, it's at her suggestion. I dive into this. Her suggestion, I take the leap into management, and the rest. It's easy to say, and then the rest is history, right? But I think so much has happened between now and then. The story is a little bit longer than that.
It's amazing when you have somebody that believes in you like that, though.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Keeps pushing you and pushing you. I mean, you talk about I love the way you just kind of act like this is just what happens. So
it is what
back. Just normal. Everybody does. The grit. Tell me about that.
Anybody could. I think anybody could.
Hands down.
Like what? It's not like I got anointed with some unbelievable ability to be successful in this type of business. Every day, every week, every month, every year, it's a decision you make to show up, right? So for me personally, I think the bigger the team got, the more promotions we had, the more success we have. I feel personally like my obligation got bigger.
Tell me more.
So if I bring you into this mix,
Yep.
right? I interviewed you, I talked about the career opportunity, and we move through the process, and I'm going to coach you, and you're leaving maybe your stable job to do this, which happens all the time. I actually prefer that type of candidate. Okay. People with obligations and responsibilities or maybe already established in some type of career. And I take you from there and I bring you here. Two things have to happen at the end of our interview process for this to actually work. I have to believe that you're going to be successful here and you're going to follow through on everything you told me you're going to do. And that's the first obligation. And the second obligation is from me to you, that I'm going to show up for you. Okay. And I know I don't break those promises. So if this doesn't work out, unfortunately, it's a you thing. Okay. And being transparent about that, right? Like, are you going to I know I'm going to show up because it's in my calendar, right? If we put time in there, I'm showing up. You're going to get coached. You're going to get trained. You're going to develop. Are you coachable is a whole nother story. Like, you could have great coaches and horrible, uncoachable players, right? The team's not going to win. It's just not, right? So I think that, you mentioned the grit. I try to find people with the same grit. I have a few, right? Some of it can be developed, right? A little bit, like you could push. But now you're into like the motivation versus discipline category.
Yep.
Right. Which, you can watch a video, you can watch this podcast, get motivated, feel good about it, get in your car, turn on the radio, go home, and it's gone. Discipline is feeling that way all the time, So the candidates I find, we come here, we get here, we're on the same page, right? That I have obligations to you, you have obligations to me.
You're setting the expectations up front at the same time. You're not kind of doing it. You are doing it.
Oh,
and they know exactly what they're getting into.
I tell candidates this will either be the best professional thing that ever happened to you or a horrible experiment. And a lot of it's just you. Like, are you, like, that's the difference between a career and a job. It's the difference between discipline and motivation. It's the difference between pretending to do that. Like, I tell everybody, I have paperwork on my desk. I can move it from here to here all day. Very busy. I'm very busy. Okay. But what did I accomplish? Was I productive? So I'm not so concerned with the sheer amount of hours you work. Like, that's not an impressive thing. Oh, I work 100 hours a week.
Nope.
How efficient are you within the hours you work?
Love that.
Okay. Because I know I could do more with my 40-hour work week, and a lot of people do in an 80-hour work week. Right. And being busy is not, it's the laziest adjective, right? It's the laziest verb. It's the laziest word. Okay. You could use busy nonsense, busy running around, busy with the kids, busy with this. What's your priority list look like? If being successful and taking care of your family and having a career and, finding satisfaction, professionally, personally is not on that radar, it's okay. It's just not going to work here. It's just not going to happen. And to your point of like the expectations, setting them early, when are you going to when do you pull that card out if it's not day one? Right? Because if you've been here and then I change who I am, like, that's not going to work either.
Then you're almost that micromanagement guy, not the leader. You're the person that wants them to be something. That
one of my friends has this saying, and he's also a senior partner at the firm. And he says, this is very adult career for people who want adult rewards and adult consequences. Right. And that sticks with me because you want to have an adult career, adult money, adult lifestyle, right? There's a downside, right? There's a risk. Right? But I think that like the risk entering this type of career or this industry or building any business, right? There's a risk, right? But the bigger the risk, usually the bigger payoff, right? If you attach, strategy, planning, accountability to that, right? The payoff's bigger. It's a lot bigger, right?
Well, what you're also saying is let's backtrack here a little bit. You've been through this. So I have to think there's been a point, like you just talked about, that you put your head in your hands and thought, what the heck did I get myself into?
Oh, I quit a bunch of times. Never actually, but I've maybe quit a day.
Yeah.
Right? I think quitting a day is okay from time to time. You're like, you know what? Today's not my day. I'm going to start over tomorrow. And I've had a lot of moments like that, especially being new to building a business in an industry I wasn't familiar with, especially.
That's just it. You can understand what they're going through when you bring them in because you have been in the same spot. You weren't
Right.
given anything. You had to make a
No.
choice. I'm going from here and something I don't know anything about.
So,
And I'm just going to start calling people.
so one of the things that I talk about that is a dangerous thing when you have been in the seat too. There's a contra side to that. And I tell new partners and newer managers, make sure you're not one-upping your advisors though. Right? So when you've had that job, it's very easy in any business that maybe someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I had a really bad day today. Like, I got to talk to you about it. We got to come up with a strategy and a plan." And you say, "I had a worse day a long time ago and I got out of it. So you should be able to get out of it." Or I lost a client. I lost 30 grand. Oh, I lost $45,000 one time. You'll be all right. That's not the coaching moment they wanted.
That's what they want to hear. No,
It's not. No, you can't be the one to one up, right? So I think it's great that if you could have held the chair that your people are sitting in, I think it's more positive, right? But you have to make sure you don't go down that danger zone or one upping them when I have a good day or a bad day. Like they come to you and goes, "Oh, I made 30 grand today." And you're like, my biggest month was 50. Like, that's ego, right? That's just ego. That's all that is. Being more present with the coaching moments is very important. Not one-upping the advisor. It's there. Like, you have to be the coach. The coach typically does a lot of observing, maybe less talking. And then when there's a coachable moment, that's when you coach, right? It's not a consistent thing. Like, I'm not spewing all day, every day, constantly. Identify them doing something good, identifying doing something bad, but coach in the moment, right? That's how I look at coaching. It's not something that happens all day, every day, but you have to be very adept at identifying the moment that needs coaching.
I love it. Thank you so much for doing this. I truly appreciate it. And I hope when people listen to this, they hear, I don't want to diminish, but what it takes to be successful isn't that hard when you just make the choice to do it and continue to do it over and over again. But you have to continue to do it. It's kind of the message here too. So, yeah. Thanks for joining us on the Your Limitless Leadership Podcast with Jenny and Brent Widman. We hope today's conversation inspired you to think differently about leadership, not just in your career, but in every part of your life. Remember, leadership starts with leading yourself first. It's about taking action, making bold decisions, and showing up with purpose. Now, it's time to take what you've heard today and put it into practice. Whether it's in your business, your community, your family, or your own personal growth, start leading without limits. You have the power to become the leader you're meant to be. Until next time, keep pushing your boundaries and leading with purpose.